Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Realm News. I am your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in realm and expands your mind one block at a time. I have part 2 for you of Minecraft Anthropology, Archaeology, and Theory discussions with NightSteak. Yes, he is back again. As I said last week, we were going to continue this because there is so much to talk about. And it is a good thing you decide to return because this is going to be an absolutely fascinating discussion that I have to wrap up this 2-part series. So, without further ado, let's begin the show, folks. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Realm News. I am your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in realm and expands your mind one block at a time. And I have on the show, as you've all been anticipating, once again, NightSteak. And you, my audience, know last week that we were talking about anthropology and we were diving into theories on desert temples. I know that I left that episode saying that we would pick back up on desert temples, but after reviewing that, we already covered it all. So maybe one other day we'll come back and talk more about desert temples. But we're actually going to move on and do the opposite of deserts, and we're going straight underwater. And I'd like to first say, NightSteak, hello, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me back on part 2. It's great to be here. And yeah, I'm really
It's
looking
great to
forward
have you back. It is. We have a lot left to talk about. I know we had a whole solid hour last time you were on the show, so I'm excited to talk ocean ruins with you. But how have you been, man?
I've been pretty good. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting into this because there's a lot to talk about here.
There is, and so I just want to dive right into it. I dug up a theory from a friend of mine that I've known since Realm News has been around pretty much. The Wither King, they're a big content creator. You can find them on YouTube, X, and Blue Sky and social medias like that. But I actually found this on Reddit, this theory, and it is called Ocean Ruins Theory. Let me see here. I am going to read you the whole thing, honestly. They titled it that was what I called it. Sorry. They titled it Minecraft's Underwater Civilization Completely Explained. Interesting findings from 6 years ago. So it's a little bit older and it's a little bit of an older summary. So I'm going to go ahead and read it to you if you don't mind, NightSteak.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. Guardians are artificial creatures created by an ancient civilization to protect ocean monuments and their treasures. They are composed of prismarine shards and crystals, similar to the materials used in constructing ocean monuments, and are biomechanical organisms due to their lasers and crystal drops. There is a theory that an extinct underwater human civilization created these ruins and temples, as ocean ruins are made from the same materials as ocean monuments, indicating a connection to these underwater beings. The drowned, likely remnants of this civilization, are found in their ruins and possess unique abilities. The trident, a weapon associated with the drowned, resembles prismarine, further linking them to the underwater civilization. Gold, prevalent in ocean ruins and monuments, is also dropped by the drowned, suggesting a connection to the civilization. Ocean ruins contain loot such as gold nuggets, gold helmets, golden apples, and wheat. Sponges may have been used for underwater farming by removing water from the growing area. Speculation suggests that drowned creatures are underwater humans who turn blue due to prolonged submersion, similar to how drowned zombies turn blue. And that's all I got. They had a long article, and I was talking to them, and they even don't even quite believe this theory, but it raises a lot of good questions, and I wanted to just say all that. What this theory posits that guardians are artificial protectors created by an ancient underwater civilization. Do you agree that guardians could be biomechanical organisms crafted by advanced builders, NightSteak? What are your thoughts on that? I know that you mentioned last week that illagers are responsible for these the underwater societies, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe that the ancient builders or humans, as I'd prefer to call them, are were involved whatsoever with these. I do think that like there's a reason why we do find so many drowned like around these structures, but I think that they came later as explorers who were trying to pretty much steal stuff from these places or maybe bury stuff as seen in the buried treasure. So like they were taking stuff, they were looting it from these places, and a lot of them did drown in the process. And I do think that that's more likely what happens. But I believe that both the ocean monuments and also the smaller ruins we see, like all throughout the ocean, were the result of the testificate race, either being pillagers or illagers. Testificates also include witches and like wandering traders and stuff like that. But I do think either the illagers or the villagers were directly responsible for these societies that we used to see around down there.
I suppose we should rewind a bit and let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about testificates. I know last week we talked a bit about them. These testificates, I must ask, were they like the genesis of all the villagers, illagers types, variants, all of them? Or they the singularity of it all? Or
So
before on the evolutionary timeline, I suppose?
no, I'd say yeah that they're sort of just like a blanket term used to refer to the either race as a whole or sub races, because I feel like at this point that the illager skin and the witch skin, it's probably more of like a genetic thing at this point that's like getting passed down from generation to generation instead of them being just like coming out as normal villagers and then like having their skin change over time. So I do think
Mhm.
that they have like significant genetic offshoots, but I do think that they're all under like the same like species or they have the same origin species. So when I refer to these groups and when a lot of people online refer to these groups, especially in the Minecraft historical community, they'll use the term testificates as a blanket term. And I think that that covers the group pretty well. And it makes it easier to talk about them as a whole because a lot of times it's like you don't really know who directly was responsible for it, but you know it was a race of one of these groups. Could have been witches, could have been villagers, but you don't really know. And I do think that, like, especially in the case of the ocean monuments, I do think that they were like surrounded by testificates and that they would have came there pretty much as like their holy temples. But I don't think that the humans that we find there that the drowned, I don't think that they were part of that ancient civilization. I think that they came much later.
Is there proof of any holy symbols in these places or
So, I mean, with Minecraft dungeons, we do see a lot more inside these ocean monuments. Like normal Minecraft, you don't see much in the monuments. Like there's a few like dark prismarine symbols. So I don't know if I haven't really looked at them like anytime recently, so I don't know if they hold any sort of ground like lore wise.
Mhm.
But in Minecraft Dungeons, actually, we see a lot more there. Like inside the temple, we see like a bunch of murals that are like carved out of prismarine and like they use like copper lining for the carvings, and they show like a lot of different stuff like seaweed. They show guardians, but one of the biggest mural that you can find like depicts like a massive like civilization surrounding these monuments, and like the civilization looks like the houses there are like the what are now the ocean ruins that like dot the oceans. And this massive civilization is like seen there,
Hello?
and an asteroid's coming down towards it.
NightSteak? Could you repeat that last sentence? I think I lost connection just for, like,
Oh shoot!
5
Yeah.
seconds.
So this sorry, wait, give me a sec.
You're
Um,
okay. I think
wait.
you're talking about the
So what part
symbols
did you
underneath
mention?
the
Oh yeah. So in Minecraft Dungeons, we do see some symbols there in the bigger ocean monuments. Because in Minecraft Dungeons, as I was saying a bit in the last episode, they sort of feature amplified versions of the structures.
Mhm.
So in Minecraft Dungeons, we see these big ocean monuments, and inside the monuments, we see these copper murals. Like it's chiseled copper and prismarine, like a mix of both of them. And the murals, like they depict stuff like guardians, seaweed, and some other like smaller stuff. But there's one large mural which like tells a story, which pretty much shows like this big civilization. It's like houses and stuff surrounding these ocean monuments, and it depicts an asteroid coming down and like crashing down on them.
That's
So
one
I
you
think,
That's the one you sent me, right? Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I
okay.
sent it to you on disc or what is it, Twitter or X,
Yeah,
whatever you wants to
go
call
ahead
it.
and explain that
So
to the
yeah,
audience.
that's
That's
like
really cool.
yeah, it shows a meteor coming down and aiming like pretty much directly towards one of the temples, and it's I do believe that that was like the mural itself was made before this happens, like almost like a prophecy, pretty much, because it looked like at the time that this place was inhabited, it looks like people would have lived there, like down on the surface. They wouldn't have been swimming from place to place. So I think yeah, all of that happened before, and like they sort of knew it was going to happen, or they'd figured it was going to happen. But I think that they did something that really like upset their gods or whatever, or that maybe they were trying to fulfill that prophecy for whatever reason, and it came down. And actually, there is some ground to this because in Minecraft dungeons in the Hidden Depths DLC, in which we see this stuff, there's like an optional like sub dungeon thing which can appear, and in that you do actually get to see the asteroid that did crash down, and it causes like this massive crater. And the asteroid itself is pretty interesting. I've looked at it in the texture files, and it's made up out of like this unique type of gold and unique stone that you don't see like anywhere else. So between the gold and the stone, like it comes up into like this ball. It looks like clearly like a it's a pretty decently sized meteor. It's not
It
massive,
looks
but
really
like
neat.
yeah, it does look
Yeah,
pretty
just for the
cool.
audience to know, he sent me the pictures just this morning before the recording of the show, and it's something I've never seen this. I've never played dungeons, as you know, folks, but this is super cool to look at. I'm going to try to get these posted on Patreon today, so so everybody can see it.
For
But go
those that
ahead.
for those that don't get the chance to see it, the interesting thing about it is it's kind of like a dark ball, but the all the gold parts they're like glowing pretty intensely, like as it's seen in game.
Hmm.
So that makes me feel like there's some sort of radiation emitting from it, and it's like still like super radioactive even after all this time. And I know like radiation isn't really something that we worry about in Minecraft or see in Minecraft, but I do think it's there, it's present. Like I mean, we hear like pretty much like a Geiger counter sound going off when we're inside the basalt deltas, I believe, in the Nether. So I do think
Yeah.
that like even though radiation doesn't directly affect us, or it's like not something that we see, I do believe that it is at least canonically there and maybe present in areas like that. So I think that it's like a highly radioactive thing, and that's how they chose to represent it. But with that shown, the meteor and then also the prophecies about it, I think that that could have been responsible for what led these caused these oceans to sink or what caused the world to flood. Because I mean, like I've heard something like if a needle was sent through the world at the speed of light, like it would cause like a crater that would pretty much destroy the world. Um,
Wow.
so it's like regardless of how small something is, it just matters how fast it's going in, like hitting something. So an asteroid that big, if it hit the world like really fast, I do think it could have had like catastrophic catastrophic impact. Like could have
Yeah.
destroyed stuff for
Cataclysmic.
yeah. Just like I know the overworld is massive. I think it's like 3 times bigger than our planet or something like that.
It's
But
8, I think.
oh, geez. Yeah. Even with 8 times bigger, like something that's like moving that fast and like hit something with like that much force could cause a serious amount of damage. That asteroid could have been what sunk those oceans and pretty much like doomed all those societies. But then again, like with that whole prophesized thing, maybe they knew it was going to happen ahead of time, or maybe they even wanted it to happen for whatever reason.
Interesting. Okay, so explain to me your theories on the Guardians. Are these leftovers, protectors? Obviously, just the name itself posits that they're guarding these structures. I don't even know what you want to call them, but uh, what are these leftovers from an ancient underwater civilization?
So I do think that they're fully like robotic. I don't think they have any actual fish parts.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, a lot of like old stories, like Greek stories, like talk about like stone robots or like, and
Hmm.
obviously now, like, you know, you have to have like movable, like malleable pieces inside to get something to like work like that. I mean, I'm not a mechanic, but I'd imagine that that's how it goes. But I do
Hmm.
think that they had like these things like fully like stone creatures that are like robotic, maybe with a little bit of magic or whatever, that kept them alive, and they were designed to pretty much like protect these temples. Like there's some sort of failsafe that they were created for, and I do think that they served a purpose. Like maybe the people that built the temples, or actually, well, the temples themselves, I believe that they were constructed by the hosts, And not to go too off topic, but the hosts are these three godlike creatures seen in Minecraft Legends, and they're pretty much like they set up these structures. The Well of Fate is actually like one big prismarine structure that looks a lot like an ocean monument, and that's like the centerpiece of the world, and that like all life springs from that or something like that. And they also build other prismarine structures that are found throughout the world. They're like smaller wells or fountains, and that's like prismarine is pretty much exclusive to them. So from what we see in legends, it's like some sort of godlike object. So I do believe that the actual like monuments were placed down by the gods, being the hosts or maybe something else. But I do think that there's something special there. So I think that they were the ones who put the guardians down, probably to protect the wells or protect whatever these structures were, because I do think that they served some sort of purpose. They actually protected these people, like not. I don't think it was just some like big vanity thing, like oh, here's our temple, now worship us. I do think that they actually served a purpose, and that those guardians were initially there to protect the people. But either something went wrong, or they are protecting it, and we just don't know why it's important that these things stay intact.
Do you believe, just because I'm asking this because you bring up the three gods from legends in this, do you believe that in the Minecraft universe, vanilla, dungeons, legends, that all three are interconnected?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's I mean, Dungeons has been confirmed to be like hard canon before, like completely
Mhm.
canon to vanilla Minecraft. I mean, Legends has been established as canon too, to vanilla, but with
Has it?
Legends, yeah, it's a little more iffy. They've said it's like being told like through the perspective of like a pretty much a villager telling a story to his kid. So it's like
Interesting.
something that's like pretty much myth, but like it's derived from a true story. Like pretty much the heartbeats of what happened are true, but maybe the finer details aren't. And that makes a lot more sense for Legends because it does feel like a lot more vague, and especially in the way that it tells the story. But
Mhm.
Dungeons, I do like how it's like supposed to be directly canonical to pretty much every vanilla Minecraft world. So that's definitely hard canon.
No, and I just had to ask, and because I know that there's a lot of debates about um, if those are canon or not to Minecraft vanilla, and
Yeah,
I've seen it online. I've even debated it, and I've never played the game, so um, no, it's super interesting to find that out. I want to ask this: do you think that or is Dungeons? Did it take place before vanilla? That what we play every day, is that like a predecessor or supposed to be to the
so
world?
that's actually pretty contested because they've never said it straight up. And people have like had arguments for both because Dungeons does feature more advanced technology and it does feature like more fleshed out like structures and all that. But I do think that like people can be more advanced and then have like that knowledge lost to time. And I think we see that with Minecraft, how we see all these big structures that aren't really inhabited by people, and then
Mhm.
the ones that survive, like the pillagers, the illagers, or no, the illagers, the villagers, and the witches. They're all living in like relatively small structures compared to like the giant ones that like dot the world that are like all
Mhm.
ruins. So I do think that there's a lot of lost knowledge there, and I think part of that is like more advanced stuff that we saw in Minecraft Dungeons. So I do believe that Minecraft Dungeons is in fact a prequel instead of a sequel, even though it has more advanced technology and whatnot.
That's intriguing in itself. No, that is, and this all does tie into anthropology because it's good to know what came first or what came after in the
And
timeline.
even if the hosts like or gods like weren't directly involved, like even if it was like human built, I do have one theory as to why the guardians are like protecting these structures so much, and I think it derives from what they're protecting, the or those structures are protecting themselves. Because when you think about it, like in the very center, the treasure room of the monuments, it's got I think 8 blocks of gold. Like it's got like a cube of gold in the center, and like that's considered the treasure for the monuments. But the interesting thing is, like, if that's what they're protecting, like, why does it matter that that gold stays there? But then when you think about it, gold has like properties to prevent against the zombie infection.
Exactly.
When someone's when you got a zombie villager, the way you cure them is a potion of weakness and then golden apple.
Mhm.
Maybe the presence of that gold there, because gold is, I mean, gold has magic properties as we see in Minecraft. Like anything that you enchant, any gold armor or tools that you enchant are like a lot more effective. Or I don't know how that fully works. It's been a while since I fully looked into it, but gold is supposed to be the easiest one to enchant.
I didn't
And
know that. I
yeah,
haven't really done brewing, so
it's got some it's yeah, gold has got some magic property. Yeah, brewing too, like how it's like used for glistening onion or glistening
Yeah.
melons, golden carrots, golden
Mhm.
apples. But then yeah, also just like the fact that yeah, it can be enchanted easier or enchanted cheaper or something like that. So I do think there's a lot of magic properties for gold, and I think that the fact that they were there in the center of the temple, maybe it created like some sort of conduit pretty much that protected the locals from the infection. So
No,
like even when it was flooded, like the guardians were deployed pretty much to protect the place, so that like nobody would come in and steal the treasure.
intriguing. No, that's very intriguing. And what about these 3 gods that you mentioned in Legends? Who are
So
they?
let's see. The one of them was knowledge, one of them was foresight, and the other one was action, I believe. So
Okay.
that was like the three things they represented. They all looked a little strange. Like they definitely looked like something out of this world. One of them had one eye, one of them had two eyes, and one of them had three eyes. Um, and some people are thinking that there was a fourth host, being the orb of dominance, as we saw in the Minecraft movie, being like a non-sentient
Yeah.
creature, but it was like the Orb Dominance was like the overarching enemy for both Minecraft Dungeons and Minecraft Legends. And people are thinking because like the orb has like four eyes and one of the ways it's represented and depicted in dungeons as like its final form, like people are thinking that maybe the orb was the fourth host. So there's possibly four, but there's like three official confirmed ones seen there. And like they were the ones that established the Well of Fate and put up these other prismarine structures across the world. So I do feel like they were the ones who put these up in the first place, maybe to protect other villagers from infection. But yeah,
Okay.
they had these guardians up pretty much as a precaution to make sure that these things wouldn't get looted and have the temples disrupted pretty much.
And it and the Wither King mentions in their theory the use of sponges for underwater farming, and do you think there's anything to that? Just as
Uh,
a
I could definitely see that. But that also sort of like sponges are another thing in and of itself, like because sponges like are living organisms, right? And they had to be living at some
Mhm.
point. So
Mhm.
they were probably taken like from when the ocean was had a completely different like biology, like back when those like grew maybe along with the coral or whatever. So I think the fact that those are in there implies that these things are like really ancient, like compared to other structures.
And do you think they're more ancient than the desert temples? Because you we were discussing this tapestry here that's very elaborate, and it looks like the world got hit by a crater or by a meteor, sorry. Right? And do you think that obliterated and what heck, you even sent me the photos of the meteor, and the tapestry shows the meteor coming out of the sky, and did they so is that when they went that's when the water submerged, or did they move underwater, you
Yeah,
think?
I think yeah, that's when they got submerged, and I don't think people would have lived there or adapted to being underwater. I think that like once those floods came, they either drowned or they found a way out. And I think the reason why we don't see drowned what do you call them, drowned villagers, like because I do think it was villager societies here that were like the ones that drowned out, and the reason why I
Really?
don't think we
Illagers or
see
villagers?
villagers, or actually, wait, it could be illagers. I do think that the cold ocean ruins, which actually usually you do see more of those around these ocean monuments. But I do think the cold ocean ruins were specifically illager societies. So maybe the hosts like were upset with what the illagers were doing, like for the ocean or cold ocean ruins that we see around, you do see some prismarine that's like in them as like part of the ruins that you can find, but you don't really see it as like specific, like you don't see it as like accents or whatever. You see it pretty much like hidden like somewhere in the structure. So I don't think that they were like part of the structure themselves. I think that like the illagers were pretty much stealing from these monuments over time, like taking prismarine to put in their own homes, and maybe that was what upset the hosts, and the hosts were like, okay, yeah, we're having enough of this. And then they decided to send that asteroid down and like destroy these communities.
Intriguing. Now, was the were the desert temples around at the same time as this asteroid or meteor or whatever you want to call it, or did they come after in this timeline?
I do think that the desert temples would have been around there at the same time, because I'm still sticking to my theory that desert temples are in fact like fountains that used to hold waters from the Well of Fate. as we see in Minecraft dungeons, how the water under the desert temple is like glowing blue and like looks like super pure compared to anywhere else. So I do think that they used to be fountains, but I don't know when they dried up compared to the other stuff. Maybe like when this asteroid went down and like completely shook up the overworld. Maybe that's like what led to the water basins like going further down and leading to these deserts completely drying out. So I maybe that's when like these things like went from wells to become tombs eventually, or like places where they'd stash their treasure. But yeah, I do think that they'd be around at this point in time.
And then naturally, the desert wells would sprout up after. In your according to your theory, I'm not trying to put words, but I guess the desert wells would have to come after the desert temple was no longer a fountain to make an oasis, right?
But yeah, I'd imagine so. Although you could also be said that those wells, like especially if they were established by traveling traders,
Mhm.
I or wandering traders, I do believe that those wells could have also existed even earlier, like maybe around the same time. Like maybe they used to distribute the Well of Fate's water, and used to be like that's used to be like a hub where you could get even better water than the normal water you'd see running by the creeks or whatever that'd be up top. Because that's also something I'm going to touch on more when we talk about trail runes themselves. But
Mhm.
one of the patterns for trail runes, the color schemes for it, actually matches the wandering trader's robe colors perfectly. It's got gold, it's got red, and it's got blue, like the color scheme, and
Mhm.
an entire set of trail runes builds are designed exactly like that. So that kind of implies that there was a um, wandering trader society back then, or at least like the foundational one, which the current wandering traders are basing their robes off of and their culture off of. So that's where, yeah, it sort of implies something's been going on there for like untold generations. So I do think that like if that's the case and they are really an organization that's that old, maybe these wells could have been from back then too, and they could have been established like as a way to get this like healing water, or just as a way to make their trade routes like a little more easy to travel on.
I enjoy you bringing up the wandering trader and talking about that and linking that individual to the trail ruins, and that kind of segues me to that. So I want to go ahead and close this out of the Wither King's theory here. That was fun to talk about and speculate on underwater. I guarantee we didn't even touch base on all of that because we didn't even. There's other structures underwater. I mean, there's even boats. I wanted actually. I mean, before we move on to trail ruins here, I would
Oh
like to
yeah.
find out your opinion on boats, and I've even put out small theory on flying boats that some people consider a glitch, and I remember making a report on that glitch that Mojang just seems to ignore. They like to keep glitches in the game, and I say that they're doing that on purpose almost. But um, I think I read in one of my episodes or a news flash the entire glitch report on the flying ships. It's been around for years. It's never been resolved, and
I remember hearing
so
about that on one of your episodes. Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was interesting. And as we all know, the creeper, their their logo is the creeper is their their sponsor of the game pretty much is a glitch. So I wonder what are your theories about these ships? Are they tied into ancient builders? Are they tied into the testificates? Are they tied into villagers, illagers? What's your opinions on those?
So once again, like I do think that it was most likely the pillagers, because I spoke about this in the previous episode, but I'll go over it again because it's a little more relevant here. The original version of pillagers that was first shown off had pirate themed clothes. Like it had
Hmm.
like torn up sort of sailor suit. It had even had like an eye patch, and they looked like the standard kind of pirates you'd see. And though I mean, I feel like they'd be perfect like to be on those kinds of boats. And considering like you'd see these sunken ships and they have like buried treasure and like maps to go find the buried treasure, I do think that it was most likely pillager raiders that were going around like either looting these ancient structures or using the boats to go from place to place to loot villages and whatnot. But then again, I also feel like the drowned could have came from there too. So either like maybe it was that could have been at a time when the illagers were working with humans like alongside them, and maybe some of them raided together and raided like villages together. But I do think, yeah, there's also a chance that they could have been like humans on those boats, like specifically human boats. and maybe that's where the
Really?
drowned come from. Because yeah, I do think that like humans came by at some point and started like drowning or diving down there to like trying to excavate these places or like take treasure from these places, and that's where I think most of the drowned come from. Or maybe it was because I know there's a theory that says that like illagers like utilized necromancy to like get like zombies and stuff like that, bring them back to life. So maybe
Mhm.
illagers use these human corpses to like pretty much try to go down, dive down, find treasure for them, and that's why we find so many drowned there, but we don't find any drowned villagers.
That's intriguing. I always see theories, and I've even postulated that it was the ancient builders that had those ships, and I'd never once thought of it being about Ilders for some reason. It didn't even cross my mind that that would be an Illager.
Yeah,
I
people
That makes
like
sense though.
it's yeah, a lot of people like they like to think like when they're thinking of the story, thinking about what could have happened, it's in the real world too, like people like to imagine themselves in the shoes of these other people. But a lot of
Hmm.
times it like wasn't our people, it was a different culture, it was a different group. And with this, I feel like Minecraft lore for some reason becomes a lot less appealing to people when the people that are featured in the lore don't look exactly like their character does. So when you think about it, like it would make a lot more sense for these the people that you see like everywhere across the world, these villagers or illagers, witches, whatever. Like it would make sense that they were the responsible for the majority of this stuff. So it's like even if they may not look like us or they may have their own language or anything like that, I do think like considering them like obviously they're just NPCs, but like considering them lore wise as being like the people that could have been responsible for this stuff, like that's something you should always be looking at.
I fully agree. And honestly, I like to get the narrative straight, especially on Realm News, because I guess I got tied into, I guess, history being kind of warped on Minecraft lore because it's and I think a lot of it was because Matt Pat, I think's the
Dude, I was
person
gonna
that
say, yeah.
coined the whole ancient builder theory, right?
That's
Am-
the thing. I'm gonna say this bluntly. Like MatPat is a scourge on the Minecraft lore community because he ties everything back into his ancient builders theories, and he's like refused to like acknowledge anything like serious about Minecraft dungeons or legends. Like he like won't even look at them, and
yeah,
he the problem with him is like he ties all his theories back into his other theories. Like he likes to do that, and obviously like it's cool when you can tie your theories together, but you shouldn't be like jumping like to conclusions to tie theories together. It doesn't make any sense, and like especially when you're tying it to like previously outdated theories that were made before like dungeons was even released. Like it's okay to like have things change over time. It's okay to like not have
mhm.
theories that connect to stuff you previously established. But I mean like I don't think he does Minecraft theories anymore, and like I'm pretty grateful for that, but I feel like he's
He's
started done like
retired,
irreversible damage.
or he's not even in game
Yeah,
theory.
I remember hearing that.
He
So it's
retired the
like
day I started my podcast.
wow.
I didn't even know who he was until that day I started my podcast. It was such a weird coincidence. I heard it in the news, and I was like, "Who's this MatPat guy?" And then I found out he was super popular and influential amongst Minecraft and theories. Yeah, and I even got sucked into calling and thinking everything was based around ancient builders, and I even established a timeline off ancient builders, off a lot of my theories, because it's just such a it has such a gravitas that he established with that theory. It's insane. So I'm glad to get testificates, that term thrown out there that you introduced, and some more um logical things going here, honestly.
Yeah, it's honestly, I do think that like a lot of people like just don't like Minecraft lore. Like as soon as it doesn't like involve people that look like them or like pretty much like older versions of like their character. But and I've seen that a lot on Reddit actually. Like people are saying like they don't like Minecraft dungeons because it's like trying to imply that the villagers or the illagers were the ones who behind all the structures, and that's like disrupting the established lore. But that was never established lore before. That was just Matt Pat saying stuff. So like I do actually really like how like they were made by these like already strange characters. Like we can't understand what villagers are saying. We can't understand what they're thinking, and like they've intentionally been left sort of vague. So it's cool to know that like they were the ones responsible behind these massive societies that we only see remnants of.
No, I enjoyed that. So let's shift gears here
All
where I
right.
was going to take us next before we got into the Map Pat universe. And I should have you on where we just do an entire series of dispelling his theories.
No, I love that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that someday. That'd be kind of fun. But in a fun way. I'm not going to like disparage the guy, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
of course.
he was extremely popular, so that's cool, and a lot of
What
people love
quality
him. But
content.
it would be fun just to go through and just try to do like, what do you think of this theory type thing, you know? And does this hold water?
Yeah, I'd be
Anyways,
down for that.
yeah, that'd be cool. We might have to do that sometime. But before we do that, let's talk about trail ruins now, because this is something I don't think I've ever found before, but I have a feeling that I have stumbled across one and I didn't know what it was, and I need to go back out there and check it out. But this theory that I found titled Trails and Tells Theory, the trail ruins are the most ancient structures in Minecraft by formerly Duck. And this summary is trail ruins in Minecraft are considered the most ancient structures due to their buried state, primitive design, and materials, and highly decayed condition. In contrast, strongholds in ancient cities, although also buried, feature more sophisticated designs and appear to have been intentionally constructed underground. And that's the summary there, such as the portals that the strongholds have to go to the end, and they hypothesize the portal of ancient cities. I don't know. They were just saying that these structures, like ancient cities underground, and then the strongholds at the end, were intentionally put underground, not buried by the sands of time, so to speak. What do you think of what do you think of the trail ruins?
So, I mean, first off, I would say like the idea that they were intentionally buried underground. I don't think that holds much ground at all, with the exception of the strongholds, because it does feel like, at least with the way that they are built, it looks like they're supposed to be down there, like sort of like a bunker system.
Yeah,
But for the
but you
other two,
don't think the ancient cities were?
no, I think with the ancient cities, I mean, they're clearly like deep underground, like the deep structure you can find underground. But I think that like when you look at the structures from the ancient cities, you can see it looks like they're pretty much like carved out from the ground. Like obviously some are made of bricks and stuff like that, which could have been like carved out from the side and then made into those bricks and like put up. But I feel like a lot of
Mhm.
the structures and a lot of the design itself of the city was like carved from the stone itself. So I don't think that that implies that like that used to be on the top layer. I think that whoever was there went down there to either hide or just because they were looking to explore those lower regions for loot or like more ore and stuff like that. So I think that that could have been an ancient civilization, but I don't think the fact that it's deep down there is because of its age, if that makes sense.
Interesting. So, trail ruins are do you think they're the oldest?
I don't know if I'd say the oldest, but they're definitely from the era of Minecraft Legends, and we can see it in the design that you see on the buildings. One of them, like
Really?
the most important thing that you see there is glazed terracotta in a lot of those buildings, which is like that very like decorated, looks almost painted block. You can see like a few of those. I think mostly white glazed terracotta, and you actually see those in cold ocean ruins too. I believe in like small aspects of it in like a few of the buildings, and
Okay.
having those there, I mean, you see that in the villages in Minecraft Legends. I mean, they look a little different, but they have that terracotta look like all over the buildings. Like they're all decorated. They have like a lot more color. Like in the trail ruins, also you see a lot of painted terracotta or dyed terracotta, whatever it's called,
Mhm.
in different colors depending on what village or what trail ruins you're excavating. And those different colors, like they do look a lot like the colorful houses seen in Legends, and also it just sort of like implies like a time period. Like you're not going to be spending all day like working on designs on your house if it's getting raided and burned every other week. So this sort of like implies that they all come from this shared time when it was a little more peaceful, when there wasn't as much conflicts, and when you're able to get these like more rare blocks from different biomes, like these glazed colored terracotta from other biomes, which could be like thousands of blocks away. So that also implies like stronger trade routes too, like that these places were connected at some point.
Those are some really good points you made. I think it was the same article that I read, but aren't a lot of these made out of mud, or I mean, I guess yeah, mud blocks? Some of
But yeah,
these. So does
I
that
haven't.
show that they are more primitive at the
I
same time compared to desert temples? And even though they have terracotta, but do they have more primitive designs?
I think that they actually have more advanced designs than what you see in modern villages because while they do have those like mud bricks, they also have like normal bricks, which I think they're one of the few structures that you can find in the overworld that actually have modern bricks. And the fact that they're able to do that, like with imagining like some form of concrete, like between the bricks and all that, and making them all uniform, as well as like the complexity of the glazed terracotta and stuff like that with all the patterns on it. I do think that this was a more advanced, or at least like they had more time to do this kind of stuff compared to the villages today, which are made of like cobblestone and whatnot. Just like sort of a lot more medieval looking in nature, like pretty much almost like Dark Age. So I do think that back then they had more time on their hands and maybe they were even more intelligent. At least like they
Wow.
had more time to think about like this kind of stuff and work on this kind of stuff instead of worrying about having to get raided by zombies or pillagers all day.
What kind of society was this? Is this a villager society?
But yeah, no, these were distinctly villager societies, like pretty much the older villages that we would have seen like back then. And like I was saying, like the ones we see in Minecraft Legends, they look a lot like these. The way that they have the or glazed terracotta everywhere. And also, yeah, just the color patterns. Like they're a lot more bright than you'd see with modern villages or any pretty much any modern structure today. You don't see those like same colors. It's just like bland, and they're using whatever's in the environment around them. But back then, they had the time and they had the trade connections to get these more exotic blocks and work with them. And I do think that's pretty cool.
Now, I have another question for you because obviously these were older than the villages that we see today in the overworld, but yet these are more sophisticated designs. So it tells me that there has been a loss of knowledge over the centuries, and we kind of touched base on that. I believe maybe it was it last week, but when we were discussing it in part one of the show. But um, and I understand that this has happened in the course of human history, our human history as well. There's been, I can't remember the famous what Roman library that burnt down and lost most, and Greek. I think there's a
Great of
Greek one that were,
Alexandria, yeah, that was
yeah, and
awful.
it lost most of the ancient knowledge of the time. And I heard on a Gone Medieval episode that they had a famous historian on there that specialized in manuscripts, and they said that I think only eight what was it 8 or 10% of old manuscripts in England from the medieval period have only been preserved, which is
That's heartbreaking.
insane. So so do you think that they just had they lost a bunch of knowledge? Was this due to that meteorite that crashed into the overworld, or what do you
I,
think about all that? What's the explanation of them being set back technologically speaking and culturally?
While it could have been an apocalyptic event like the meteorite, I do think that like there is a lot more zombies, or at least a lot less security compared to what used to be there. Because I mean, back in Minecraft Legends, we see that the zombies exist, but they don't pose a threat to the villagers. Like the villagers, like do seem to zombify after they die, or like, but they don't seem to be like chased by the zombies or like infected by the zombies like while they're still living. So back then, like they don't appear to be a threat. So I'm guessing that back then they weren't as much of an issue, and the villagers were just completely fine. But now it is a lot more dangerous to be a villager, of course, because now there's also people, your own people, raiding you, which that wasn't an issue in Legends. Like, not to do any spoilers for the story Legends, but you don't actually see any raiding pillagers. Like, it shows how how the illagers like started off doing their own thing, but they're allies to the villagers. Like, they're not uh, getting in the way of the villagers. They want what's best for the village. But now these days, it's like every other week you have a pillager raid coming in, like killing your people. So it's a lot harder to like do any sort of other stuff. You'd be focused on like surviving, be focused on living to see the next day, making sure that you can have a family or whatever. Um, Pretty much fulfill your basic life cycle. And when people are in those times, they don't have time for pottery, they don't have time to paint, do murals or anything like that. So I do think a lot of that was just lost through conflict and the inability to do that stuff over time, which is why like you don't see any pottery, you don't see any active pottery anywhere in the overworld. It's all ancient stuff they have to dig up or find in what do you call them, the trial chambers. Yeah, you find it
Yeah.
in trial chambers, but God knows how old those places are. So I do think it's like a lot of this stuff is just lost art as a result of people not having the free time to do like what would have been art at one point.
That's wow. No, I like hearing all that. I've as I said, I haven't found a trail ruin yet, but I've seen the pictures and no, that you answered that question for me. That makes sense that in times of peace, you prosper, things become more elaborate, like buildings and culture, technology, because don't these have redstone technology,
But yeah, they definitely
these
knew their
trail
way around
ruins?
redstone.
And they don't have that anymore, obviously, except for the clerics trade redstone, which is a whole thing you can theorize around. So I don't know. That's all good to know. And what other theories do you have on trail ruins?
So talked about this briefly on the last episode, but one thing that's interesting about trail runes is it sort of shows how clay pots were made in the first place. These decorative pots,
Hmm.
because you can find these kilns which are made out of a few stone brick stairs, or no, it's actually just normal brick stairs, and then a coal block on the bottom that was used to like light a fire. And pretty much you'd make these pots out of like normal clay and then fire them on this kiln, and then after that they'd be painted instead of like carved with symbols. And this method was actually shown in 2020 with what was going to be the initial release of archaeology features, back when I believe it was going to be added alongside trail what's it called, I think it was going to be caves and cliffs actually that was going to be added with, before they decided it was going to be its own thing. So back then, like they had a completely different process, and the painted clay pot would look completely different. That's what they'd be called, painted clay pots instead of the decorative pots we see today. But in the end, they decided not to add it. But interestingly enough, we can see the kiln that they showed off, like in the development video, and we see that as part of the trail runes here. So that's like one of the more interesting things that we see in the trail runes. But otherwise, like they are left like to be like intentionally a bit mysterious, but they show towers and they show they saw, I think they're called, referred to internally as group halls. So it shows that like they I don't it definitely shows that they weren't like being built like underground. Like this is just as a result of them being like covered over time with dirt. Like I mean you see that in real life all the time. So I don't think that like that underground theory holds much ground at all. But
Okay.
I do think another interesting thing, I mean, I mentioned that earlier, how one of the trail runes has the colors of the wandering trader. And so it's
Yes.
got their blue, gold, and red color scheme. They have that like as the main accents in terracotta for the structure. And it's like a whole set of structures that have this. I think every single structure type that can generate in trail ruins has a chance to generate in that color scheme. So I think that it was
Interesting.
like some secret society at some point. Like maybe the what do you call them, the Freemasons, how there's like
Yeah.
a Freemasons outpost in like every single county
Maybe
in
the
the real
wandering
world, like
trader. No,
and stuff there.
I've speculated a lot in my own head, well, about the culture of the wandering traders. So that's very intriguing to me. And I saw a theory I almost included in today's episode that said exactly what you said about they were saying that the wandering trader, this was some special place or was correlated to um these sorry gosh, trial ruins. I want to say tricky trials almost, but
Trail
or
ruins, yeah.
trail ruins, not trial ruins. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's super interesting, and I do see the color correlation there when you mention that. I
Yeah,
want to
no.
wrap. I'm sorry, Nightsteak, to interrupt there. I wanted to we're coming to 12 minutes left of this show, and I know that you kind of, I think, want to talk a little bit about some of these armor trims because
Yeah.
they're kind of super interesting, and I don't hear too many people talking about them. Um, from what I've read, there's 18 different armor trims, and I think I only have one. They're super expensive to make. I think I have the Coast armor trim. Do these armor trims represent different societies based off their geographical area? What are your theories on armor trims?
So I'm not too sure about different societies, but yeah, different like cultures, like different regions. Like I definitely think that like there is some meaning there. Obviously, you see stuff like the snout trim, which is, I believe, you find that in the Nether, and that like obviously represents the piglins. Then you'd see stuff like silence, which looks like kind of looks like the warden's chest. It looks like something that it makes sense for where you find it, which is down in the deep dark. And then obviously, I believe I talked about this in the last episode. It is the what was it called? Century armor trim, and that's one that's depicted with the people call it the Johanna cross, which is like the cross that you see with the testificate. You see the testificate race using it, like in a lot of their work and a lot of pretty much everything that they've built. So you see that you find that century armor trim in the pillager outposts that you can find dotted across the world, and I think that's a pretty neat thing because that's like pretty much the last representation of the cross in the base game because you see it in that and you see it in the woodland mansions, but you don't see it anywhere else in the world. So mostly where you're finding that cross is in Minecraft Dungeons and Minecraft Legends. So I'm glad that they added it there. It's like a small reference that you can find, and I think that does like tell a lot about the world and like could really connect the lore together.
I think that's really cool too to know that. I'm really happy that you shared that. It's called the what cross? A Johann?
It's yeah, it's like unofficially referred to as the Johann's cross or the Johannic cross because that's the only time it's ever named on a texture is on a shield with the cross pattern is called like the Johann shield or something like that. Just in the internal files, so it's never actually
Crazy.
given a name.
Crazy. Have you found and collected all these trims?
As I stated sometimes on earlier podcasts, I only play on an older server, which is on version 1.12.2. So I haven't fully like got to experience this update. I mean, I go around sometimes on a creative world
Hmm.
or sometimes on a survival world, which I'll create and then like try to like do some archaeological stuff. But usually, like armor trims aren't what I'm looking for. I'm mostly looking for pots. But obviously, when I find them, I'll make sure to keep them. But I haven't found a full set yet. Whenever the new update comes to my server and I get the chance to play it, I'm definitely going to be all around looking for all these and like probably taking closer looks at them. Because right now I haven't looked at them all too much outside of the Century trim, but I do think that there could be more there.
Okay. Hey, I want to squeeze in here. We're coming down to 9 minutes. Well, let's just say eight. But what about music discs, real quick? What do you
Yeah.
think about those?
So I do think that like music discs as a whole are a lost piece of technology. I mean, we can't recreate them now. We
Hmm.
know how to make the jukebox to play them, but I do think that it's interesting that in the trail runes we see a completely different type of music disc that's made presumably out of terracotta, and I do think
Relic.
that yeah, Relic. That's a really fire track, by the way. But I do think that the way that it's completely different than later versions. I think that was like the first version, like a prototype or something like that, or like how it used to be done. And all of the other ones that we see in the future are like later, more advanced versions of them. But for some reason, they're all still able to run on the same system, like whatever jukebox they're able to create with modern technology. But I'm guessing that the jukeboxes that they used to use for their music back then they used to probably look different. Maybe they used to look bigger, but whatever we have is something standard that can play all of them.
Interesting. I'm going to give you some rapid questions.
Yeah.
So, what about why a music disc in a creeper head or in a creeper?
Maybe that's part of their coding or something like that. If they were actually like a technology based creature, like some people say they might be, maybe that like part of that was like they used the music disc to like write down code. They had it on there, but then it eventually reverted back to whatever it was originally. Although I'm not too sure.
That was one of my hypotheses from over a year ago. Okay. So, what about enchanted books?
Enchanted books definitely something that was known to people but then lost to time later on, and considering that illagers like pillagers evokers, they're mostly like a magic based class or society. I do think it came from them at some point, but then the once again the knowledge was lost to time after conflict became the main issue and there wasn't enough time for people to be sitting around writing books.
Okay. No, I like that answer. That makes perfect sense. Kind of ties in with your Why were the trail ruins more sophisticated compared to villages today? So, no, it kind of makes sense. In times of peace, we have time to do things like this, like writing books and enchanting things, I guess. So, no, that's cool. That's the last question I have for you. Besides, I wanted to find out again, where can everybody find you?
So you can reach out to me on Reddit. My username is NightSteak, if you want to find me there. But you can also find me online at blockdisplay.com/nightstake9. That's where I post all of my recreations of official Mojang textures from like all the Minecraft spin-off games and removed versions, older versions. And I make the blocks into block displays that can be placed in vanilla so you can use them in your Java worlds. You can also find me on minecraftskins.com and a few other sites I'm present on. But yeah, just reach out to me on Reddit if you want to get in contact with me.
Yes, folks, go reach out to him and yeah, check out his all the cool stuff he's up to. And I wanted to ask you this: how's your museum move going? Did you move
So
finally?
the move is still going pretty slow. We've just moved books over at this point, and that's a whole process in and of itself. But right now, I've just been taking a break from museum stuff, and I'm actually going around the world map on Minecraft Online, the oldest Minecraft server, and I'm going around documenting every single NPC village, like every single every single villager there too. Like I take note of how many villagers are in each village, and I write a small wiki page about them on our personal or Minecraft Online wiki. And I write down how many people are living there, or I mean, how many villagers are living there. And once I've like documented them all, I think I'm at like 70 something of them now. Once I've documented them all, I'll do like a final census, and then we'll know how many villagers are living in the world, at least in villages. It's kind of a waste of time, but I'm having fun doing it.
That's awesome. I love that. No, I did that to my own world, but of my own constructions because I've built personally 40 towns, I think, in my world.
Wow.
And I was like, dang, I need to find out how many citizens are in my realm that I'm a lord over. And so I spent like a week because I was like, dang, I can't remember some of these places I built. I'm still finding some places that like structures I built in my own world from 2 years ago. And most of them are linked by rail, but some of them are on the fringes and in the weirdest nooks of and there are only like 4 villagers I transported out there or bred. And it's like there might just be a swamp town that I made and forgot about. It's
Nah,
it's
your world
crazy,
sounds
but
awesome, dude.
yeah, I need to invite you in sometime so you can
I'd
come
love to
check it
see it.
out, man. Yeah, I think you'll have fun time being a historian and an archivist exploring my unique world. But Nightstake, it was awesome to have you back for part 2 on our archaeology, anthropology, all the ologies show, the history of the overworld and hearing all about that. It was super fascinating. And I had so many more questions to ask you, but we just simply ran out of time. And I'm sure you'll be back on the show soon so we could talk more about Minecraft.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on as always. It's always awesome to be here.
I'll see you next time, bro.
Peace, man.
See ya. Hey, Realm News fans, it's your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in Realm and expands your mind one block at a time. I am here to tell you that your support means everything. Spread the word by telling friends, liking, and commenting on Spotify or Good Pods. Find me on X, Blue Sky, Reddit, or via email at bio.link/realm news. For more content, join my Patreon at the Copper, Diamond, and VIP tiers. For early episodes, bonus content, and newsletters, find out more at bio.link/realm news. No pressure though, just keep listening, liking, and sharing. That's more than enough. Happy crafting, and see you at the next Realm News.